Hi, my name's Herald-Gutmann. I'm here with Steve Wiseman, and welcome to our game, the final one of the season as the college basketball year comes to an abrupt end in the Triangle. Duke loses its opening game for the second time in 3 years, although it was a second-round loss, not a first-round loss, so at least they got past the first round. And North Carolina made it to the third round, where they lost to Iowa State in the final seconds and didn't even get a shot off at the end. So a really disappointing conclusion to the season. Let's get right into it. Steve, what happened against Mercer for Duke?
Well, number one, Jabari Parker and Rodney Hood had their worst games of the season in the same game, which is going to kill their team. I mean, we went into it wondering if they get good guard play, because that's always the key in March. Well, Rashid Suleiman and Quinn Cook played tremendous. They combined for over 40 points, and they really gave a pump there from the backcourt. But you don't expect Rodney Hood and Jabari Parker to play that poorly and to combine for 6 of 27 shooting, and that killed them. And they still had a lead, 5-point lead late in the game, and as they did many other times this year, in second halves of the games when they had leads, they just completely collapsed. And it came down to the fact, and Coach K said it this week, in retrospect, that they just didn't have any on-court leadership consistently this year, and that's a problem that they're going to have to deal with as the years go on now. When you have these freshmen or first-year players like Rodney Hood and Jabari that are your best players, they have to have that leadership mantle, and it's hard for a young player to do that. So you had, like, Tyler Thornton was the captain. He's a senior starter, but he hadn't really had a great role in his whole career. So anyway, that kind of manifested itself in the last few minutes of that game, and it brought the end of their season in a really dramatic fashion.
Yeah, it's interesting. With UNC, it's not really one thing you can point to. When they had those bad losses early in the season, against Belmont, against Miami, against Wake, you could point to, well, it was free throw shooting, it was rebounding, it was defense, the opponent shot 50%. There's nothing like that against Iowa State. I think they just got beat by a better team. They got beat by the number 9 team in the country at the last second. Certainly no shame in that. All 5 starters scored in double figures. I know some people point to Bryce Johnson getting hurt early in the game, but Kennedy Meeks took the majority of those minutes, and he had his first double-double since Louisville, had a career high in rebounding. So I don't think they really lost much in the post with that. I don't think you can look at that as the reason why they lost. I think if you take a step back, even from the start of the season, you said this team's not going to have P.J. Harrison. What's their ceiling? You'd probably say, well, maybe Sweet 16, maybe they're a top 20 team. That's kind of their ceiling. And that's basically what we had. Maybe they get a different matchup in that second game. It's not a top 10 team. Maybe they do get into the Sweet 16. But this is probably about as good a run as you could expect from UNC. So now looking ahead, we started touching on it earlier. Duke has another batch of big-time freshmen coming in. What do you expect next year?
Yeah, well, first of all, Rodney Hood and Jabari Parker are going to go to the NBA. They haven't announced it yet. Everybody at Duke expects that to happen. Both said they were upset with the loss, and that could impact their decision. I just think as time goes on here and they look at what they're doing, they're going to be first-round picks, and they probably will go for the money. So you can't blame them for that. So what Duke has coming in next year is 4 incredible incoming freshmen. Jahlil Okafor and Tyus Jones. Okafor is a 6'10" center. Jones is a point guard. They're both of the one-and-done ilk. And Justice Winslow is a 6'6" small forward, and Grayson Allen is a 6'4" shooting guard. So they're going to have plenty of talent again next year. They will be a top 10 team in the preseason based on that and the fact they have Suleiman and Cook and Emil Jefferson coming back. But the job of those 3 veterans is they have to be the team leaders. Quinn Cook's going to be the senior guard, the only senior on the team next year, and they need him to step up and be that consistent voice in the locker room and on the court. Even if he's not playing as much with Tyus Jones coming in, that's going to be a dynamic to watch. But they're going to be very talented. I wouldn't be surprised if they look at a 5th-year graduate transfer, if there's one out there available. There will be. There always are. We don't know who they are yet. But just to add some more veteran presence to the team, they do have space for that if they lose 6 guys.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned Duke having the 1 senior next year. UNC only had the 1 senior this year, Leslie McDonald. So they probably are just going to lose the 1 starter. Marcus Page already said he's coming back. I'm sure all the other underclassmen could say they're coming back too. But James Michael McAdoo is the only guy who really has a decision. He came back the past 2 years, and his draft stock was a lot higher than it is now. So the fact that he came back, he passed up possible lottery money his freshman year to come back makes me think that he'll probably want to come back now and just finish out his college career at UNC. So if you look at it that way, they only lose the 1 guy. And that 1 guy, Leslie McDonald on the wing, they have 2 McDonald's All-Americans, Theo Pinson and Justin Jackson, coming in who play that position, who could take those minutes. You saw the biggest, the jump that Marcus Page made. They say sometimes your biggest jump is freshman to sophomore year. So you'd expect to see another jump, from Kennedy Meeks, who had that strong game at the end. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get something out of Nate Britt and Isaiah Hicks again next year, make that, that leap developmentally. So, things are definitely looking up for UNC. That said, if you asked me last year how things were looking, I would have said, well, they only lose one starter. Dexter Strickland was their only senior. We didn't know Reggie Bullock was going to jump to the NBA. It certainly surprised, even Roy said he was surprised by that. And I didn't know, PJ Hairston has this love of high-end rental cars that aren't his. So, but you see, you never know what's going to happen. But if you look at it that way, they only lose the Leslie McDonald, they have that position filled coming in. Things are looking up, and I would be shocked if we're sitting here next year talking about first weekend exits for both Duke and Carolina. I think that when they play that Duke Carolina game at the end, it could be for the ACC championship, not for third or fourth place like it was this year.
Right, indeed.
So there you have it. First of all, I'd like to thank Christine behind the camera. She does all the work making us look good. She doesn't get any of the credit or any of the visibility, but we appreciate all of her work this year, kind of making this idea come to fruition. And lastly, we'd like to thank you, our viewers, for giving us a couple minutes every week. We really do appreciate it. We wanted to try something new this year, and we hope you enjoyed it. We certainly look to continue it next season. So for Steve Wiseman, I'm Harold Gutmann, and thank you for watching Our Game.